The following content is provided under a Creative Commons license. Your support will help MIT OpenCourseWare continue to offer high-quality educational resources for free. To make a donation or view additional materials from hundreds of MIT courses, visit MIT OpenCourseWare at ocw.mit.edu.
Good morning. Try it again. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. This is 600, also known as Introduction to Computer Science and Programming. My name is Eric Grimson. Together with Professor John Guttag over here, we're going to be lecturing the course this term. I want to give you a heads up. You're getting some serious firepower this term. John was department head for 10 years, felt like a century. In Course 6, I'm the current department head in Course 6. John's been lecturing for 30 years, roughly. All right, I'm the young guy. I've only been lecturing for 25 years. You can tell I have less gray hair than he does. What I'm trying to say to you is we take this course really seriously. We hope you do as well. But we think it's really important for the department to help everybody learn about computation, and that's what this course is about. What I want to do today is three things. I'm going to start, actually I shouldn't say start, I'm going to do it in the middle, a little bit of administrivia, the kinds of things you need to know about how we're going to run the course. I want to talk about the goals of the course, what it is you'll be able to do at the end of this course when you get through it. And then I want to begin talking about the concepts and tools of computational thinking, which is what we're primarily going to focus on here. We're going to try and help you learn how to think like a computer scientist, and we're going to begin talking about that towards the end of this lecture, and of course throughout the rest of the lectures that carry on. All right, let's start with the goals. And I'm going to give you goals in two levels. The strategic goals are the following. We want to help prepare freshmen and sophomores who are interested in majoring in Course 6 to get an easy entry into the department, especially for those students who don't have a lot of prior programming experience. If you're in that category, don't panic, you're going to get it. We're going to help you ramp in, and you'll certainly be able to start the Course 6 curriculum and do just fine and still finish on target. We don't expect everybody to be a Course 6 major, contrary to popular opinion. So for those of you not in that category, the second thing we want to do is we want to help students who don't plan to major in Course 6 to feel justifiably confident in their ability to write and read small pieces of code. For all students, what we want to do is we want to give you an understanding of the role computation can and cannot play in tackling technical problems, so that you will come away with a sense of what you can do, what you can't do, and what kinds of things you should use to tackle complex problems. And finally, we want to position all students so that you can easily, if you like, compete for things like UROPS and summer jobs, because you'll have an appropriate level of confidence and competence in your ability to do computational problem solving. Those are the strategic goals. Now, this course is primarily aimed at students who have little or no prior programming experience. As a consequence, we believe that no student here is underqualified for this course. You're all MIT students. You're all qualified to be here. But we also hope that there aren't any students here who are overqualified for this course. And what do I mean by that? If you've done a lot of prior programming, this is probably not the best course for you. And if you're in that category, I would please encourage you to talk to John or I after class about what your goals are, what kind of experience you have, and how we might find you a course that better meets your goals. Second reason we don't want overqualified students in the class. It sounds a little nasty, but the second reason is an overqualified student, somebody who's, I don't know, programmed for Google for the last 5 years, is going to have an easy time in this course, but we don't want such a student accidentally intimidating the rest of you. We don't want you to feel inadequate when you're simply inexperienced. And so it really is a course aimed at students with little or no prior programming experience. And again, if you're not in that category, talk to John or I after class, and we'll help you figure out where you might want to go. Okay, those are the top level goals of the course. Let's talk sort of at a more tactical level about what do we want you to know in this course? What do we want you to be able to do by the time you leave this course? So here are the skills that we would like you to acquire. All right, the first skill we want you to acquire is we want you to be able to use the basic tools of computational thinking to write small-scale programs. We're going to keep coming back to that idea, but I'm going to call it computational thinking. And that's so you can write small pieces of code. And small is not derogatory here, by the way. It just says the size of things you're going to be able to do. Second skill we want you to have at the end of this course is the ability to use a vocabulary of computational tools in order to be able to understand programs written by others. So you're going to be able to write, you're going to be able to read. This latter skill, by the way, is incredibly valuable because you don't want to do everything from scratch yourself. You want to be able to look at what is being created by somebody else and understand what is inside of there, whether it works correctly, and how you can build on it. This is one of the few places where plagiarism is an okay thing. It's not bad to, if you like, learn from the skills of others in order to create something you want to write. Although we'll come back to plagiarism as a bad thing later on. Third thing we want you to do is to understand the fundamental both capabilities and limitations of computation and the costs associated with them. And that latter statement sounds funny. You don't think of computation having limits, but they do. There are some things that cannot be computed. We want you to understand where those limits are. So you're going to be able to understand abilities and limits. And then finally, the last tactical skill that you're going to get out of this course is you're going to have the ability to map scientific problems into a computational framework. So you're going to be able to take a description of a problem and map it into something computational. Now, if you think about it, boy, it sounds like grammar school. We're going to teach you to read. We're going to teach you to write. We're going to teach you to understand what you can and cannot do. And most importantly, we're going to try and give you the start of an ability to take a description of a problem from some other domain and figure out how to map it into that domain of computation so you can do the reading and writing that you want to do. Okay, in a few minutes we're going to start talking then about what is computation, how are we going to start building those tools, but that's what you should take away. That's what you're going to gain out of this course by the time you're done. Now, let me take a sidebar for about 5 minutes to talk about course administration, the administrivia, things that we're going to do in the course, just so you know what the rules are. All right, so the class is 2 hours of lecture a week. You obviously know where and you know when, because you're here. Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11. 1 hour of recitation a week on Fridays, and we'll come back in a second to how you're going to get set up for that. And 9 hours a week of outside the class work. Those 9 hours are going to be primarily working on problem sets, and all the problem sets are going to involve programming in Python, which is the language we're going to be using this term. Now, one of the things you're going to see is the first problem sets are pretty easy. Actually, that's probably wrong, John, right? They're very easy. And we're going to ramp up. By the time we get to the end of the term, you're going to be dealing with some fairly complex things. So one of the things you're going to see is we're going to make heavy use of libraries or code written by others. It'll allow you to tackle interesting problems without having to write from scratch. But it does mean that this skill here is going to be really valuable. You need to be able to read that code and understand it, as well as write your own. Okay, 2 quizzes during the term. The dates have already been scheduled. John, I forgot to look them up. I think it's October 2nd and November 4th. It'll be on the course website. My point is, go check the course website, which, by the way, is right there. If you know you have a conflict with one of those quiz dates now, please see John or I right away. We'll arrange something ahead of time. But the reason I'm saying that is, you know that you're getting married that day, for example. We will excuse you from the quiz to get married. We'll expect you to come right back to do the quiz, by the way, but boy, tough crowd. All right. If you have a conflict, please let us know. Second thing is, if you have an MIT documented special need for taking quizzes, please see John or I well in advance, at least 2 weeks before the quiz. Again, we'll arrange for this, but you need to give us enough warning so that we can deal with that. Okay, the quizzes are open book. This course is not about memory. It's not how well you can memorize facts. In fact, I think both John and I are a little sensitive to memory tests given our age, right, John? This is not about how you memorize things, it's about how you think. So they're open note, open book, and it's really going to test your ability to think. The grades for the course will be assigned roughly, and I use the word roughly because we reserve the right to move these numbers around a little bit, but basically in the following percentages. 55% of your grade comes from the problem sets. The other 45 come from the quizzes. And I should have said there's 2 quizzes and a final exam. I forgot that, a final exam during final period. So the quiz percentages are 10, 15, and 20%, which makes up the other 45.